We'll start with at Anaheim because I think last time we did it reverse. So here we go. All right, Progs are done, and we'll start off. Kawhi Leonard. Basically he's a cap in this, not actual Kawhi God, but Billy Baldwin and Ryan surviving. He's actually joining right now, so hey, Hugh, welcome to the Progs. Kawhi Leonard died, but all the other caps on your team had mildly good off seasons. Fleecer declining, which is funny because he's also technically abandoned now, which is unfortunate. As Fleecer's leaving, but Byron Powers having a good Progs. Overall, this team's going to be back in the playoffs once again. It's unfortunate the Dunk Master went down, but his pot's going up, so he'll probably get flipped mid-year. Overall, looking at this team, and I'm saying this team is going back to maybe conference finals, second round appearance. So here we go. And we'll type F in the comments for respect for our man Fleecer. And here we go on to the next team. Anderson Duffy get new management. Have a lot of cap room, a lot of ways to move. Former GMs now abandoning Captain Hughes with a decent prog. Harold Maven is the real star of this team. They have to add some players before the season starts. And Oscar Willis is probably going to be one of the best young point guards. If he can prog up in the next couple of years, they'll be set. Mark Stonkus also running the point. This is a solid team with a lot of potential. They changed their logo. It's pretty funny that's still MPLS, but they've been away for a long time. Next up is Atlanta at Daniel's team. Finley with a great prog, Julian Gordon with a good prog. Largely a regression from their bench that's getting up there in age. It's going to be interesting to see how Riki fits in with this team, as he's another talented two-way wing. I mean, their defensive prowess in the 3-4s with their and even the twos here with Finley, Fiddler, and Reiki all being basically shut down defenders that can play against legitimate superstars here. So I gotta say, good pick up for Daniel. The team is still missing a point guard, but otherwise is stacked at the forward and wing spots. So we'll move on to the next team. Yeah. They had some pretty hard reds on this one. So next up is Baltimore. Team Irfan's taking over. He's pretty credited GM, and start off with a pretty okay offseason for his deep bench. His stars of Buckner and Vasilis going down. Frederick Bynum also going down hard. This team had a lot of potential the last few years, but still never really made a splash. He has a lot of good pieces to move off his bench when he's looking. And we are giving him the option to get rid of threes signings. So we'll void out those deals, and they'll be free agents if Irfan decides to pursue that route. Buckner, he's been consistent, and with 2 years left on his deal, he's actually a pretty valuable player. He plays way above his overall. One of the ABA's all-time leaders in points. He actually might be number one, and he's been an absolute phenomenal offensive player for all three teams, and he'll probably be one of the few Hall of Famers to never have playoff success. Yeah, I could definitely see a Fears for Buckner trade happening. It makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Basically, Buckner is one of the best guards of all time, but has never really played for a great team, so there's a stain on his legacy. Now we look at Boston. Story became a legitimate superstar, but bigger thing here is going to be actually think he just joined. Basically, this team has a legitimate dynamic duo with Dr. J and Castori. Dr. J with a huge prog here. I mean, this might be rookie of the year caliber. Congratulations for Boston here picking up a big win. Well deserved. So now we'll move on to the next team here. Hopefully you guys should be able to read all of this. Is it nice and zoomed in for you all? Hopefully just getting some comment feedback here. Yeah, cool. People can read everything, just making sure. All right, next up here is Carolina. Actually, not a bad offseason. Terrence Jackson is going to be a big part of this team going forward. And what they did here is they sacrificed great seasons for team stability. They're one of the most stable teams in the league. And that's largely due to the fact that they paid their stars. Yes, it's been a rough few off seasons, really just a few seasons in general here. But they have potential long term to make some moves. Actually had David McGillen only wants to play for them, David McGillen Jr. So I'm fairly excited for this team's future. We're picking up some more people. Yeah, big free agency for them this year. So next, we're on to Chicago. Chicago also changing with Fleecer leaving, but ultimately maintain their core. Julius King not having a particularly great Progs, unfortunately, but their uh, big trio does return. Kramer returns, so they just need to add a bench here. Good prog from Steve Huggins, adding a lot of value. Um, Next up, we got some anxiety from Detroit. Um, this team should be a deep running playoff team. The fact that they did not make the playoffs is baffling. Um, I don't know what else to say with this team. Um, they had a good progs, especially their bench. They're deep now. Um, but are they going to go anywhere? Are they going to make the playoffs? That's a legitimate question. Yeah. Um, Now we go on to the next team, and this is Cleveland. George Moss having that positive prog that he really needed to take it up to the next level. Rodney Robinson solid. Kyle Tyler solid. This team has cap space to make moves. They got some solid prospects. I wouldn't be surprised if they make some moves with some of these prospects here, and they try to pick up some legitimate stars. Also, Taylor Johnson, after he signs a big deal, him going booming here, this team has a lot of potential. Um, and it brings us to the next team, which is Dallas. This is their year. They are all in. Um, they've added Hawthorne and Ned Raj to a incredibly deep team. This team could run a 12-man rotation easily, with Marcus McPherson and Sterner up front. I mean, in all honesty, anything less than a title with this current cast of teammates would be a disappointment. But they also had hard progs to a lot of their vets. It's going to be interesting to see how big and chunky Nedrod and Hawthorne all fare. Nedrod with the God prog, I mean, he's going to be a big part of this team going forward. He might even be a starter over Ray Thompson, which would be insane. Um, yeah, I, a lot of GMs do wish for Caps as role players because you do get a lot of stability here. They're all on fairly cheap deals, but it's worth noting Nedrod had God progs. He might not even been on the roster if he wasn't a Cap. Tommy Hawthorne had basically busted, and his career is looking like it could be rejuvenated. He could be the second Cap to get rejuvenated with Dallas, largely due to the fact that if you guys remember, just a few seasons ago, they had Calvin Lee, who had a brief resurgence after struggling. So this brings us to the next team, unless we have any more questions from Dallas players or GMs. Um, yeah, we mostly just have people bashing Tommy Hawthorne. He might be the most hated player in the league. That's pretty funny. Now we go on to Denver. Denver here with good progs, but not great progs. Their depth got killed. Um, but good progs from Corona Avarice, just hyped my cap. And Kobe actually doing something here, you know. This team they're going to be a deep playoff team. They do need to make some moves to really contend, but they're pretty solid. Last season, so this season we'll enter with um yeah, they just need some scoring from Corona here. He does not score the basketball. Um and Gary Beasley joining them. He's one of the all-time best passers in league history. Several seasons over 9 assists per game. Sure, he's declined the last few seasons, but he's also been playing in the black hole that was Boston as one of many guards. You look at him, and on a contending team, like when he was on the Houston teams, he was a great point guard, and he could be really solid for them this season. I want to see if we got any comments from DD here. Let me take a look. Um, ED hates it. ED hates his progs. All right, so I think Detroit's coming up. Detroit wants a countdown. Detroit is not getting a countdown. Here we go over to Detroit, and you know what? These are good progs. Frankly, these are really solid progs. Tallis Smith breaking out. This is what they're hoping for. They gave him a massive contract be the second star with Anura moving Fierce to third start. Anura did get hurt in Progs here. It's going to be interesting to see. Trekker also joining was huge, but they really don't have a point guard on this team. Defensive specialist Thunderbird and Julian Clarkson both didn't really develop as well as they'd hoped. we'll see if Derek Jones takes a step up to become that next star. But they do need to add some players, some role players to this team. But they could be in for another really great playoff run. Let's see if we got a comment from Luke Brinker. He's not mad at all. He hoped Fears wouldn't regress that much because I think he wants to trade Fears' lame ass. Detroit a dark horse contender. Detroit's not a dark horse contender. Detroit is a contender. This squad, minus a few role players, went to the finals last year, and then 3 years ago they were in the finals in a game 7. I mean, they're a more viable contender than half the teams in the league by a mile, by most of the teams, 90% of the teams. They're probably going pretty deep here. We'll see. All right, next team up is Edmonton, one of the expansion teams. They could be surprisingly good PER wise. They have some real PER beasts, but Progs did not like Edmonton this year, really punishing a pretty solid team. So, we go on to the next one here. I also don't know what to say with Flint. I mean, Moda Prog's great. I hope Moda sees this because his Progs were phenomenal. He's going to be a big part of this franchise, and might even be a day one starter with Black Jesus in the backcourt. Washington potentially playing small forward like he did in San Francisco. Pilar not progging great. I mean, he was a good role player for a few years, and Papa could have a pretty big season this year along with Julian Williams. This team could be surprisingly good, maybe close to 500 team if I'm being entirely honest. Fun fact, Len Bias never lived up to his potential. And Sam going down after some really solid seasons the last 2 seasons. He was a big part of a very competent, non-deep running New York team, so it's going to be interesting to see how his role on Flint gets established. But again, the great progs for Igor Moda. Hughes got to be a little disappointed in letting him leave. Cleveland as well. He only played a few games in Cleveland. But looking back at his Kansas City days when he had big minutes, he had almost 8 assists a game. He could potentially look at a big role, 10 assists plus a game. Him and Black Jesus could be one of the best backcourts in the league. Interestingly, Moda and Black Jesus actually have a history. He was playing for GM Moda. They were teammates in Cleveland. Now the script is completely flipped. They're virtually the same player. It's going to be interesting to see. Could be some drama in Flint. Fort Worth. These are just horrid, atrocious progs. I mean, Calvin Lee going down is unfortunate. There's not good luck here from Pikey. You hate to see it. Great, really solid progs off for a couple of their young prospects. But other than that, just killed across the board. This team is probably going to be one of the better expansion teams for the fact that they have Morris, signed Barnes to a big deal, Thompson. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. They could potentially compete for an 8th seed. If they're in the East, they definitely could compete for an 8th seed. But Barnes might have one of the worst contracts in the league. They're hoping for positive progs there. But you know what? This team doesn't need win now, but they do need production, and they will get production. So next up, we go to Hawaii. Hawaii getting great progs from Skarn. Fadev progging at least a little positively, but the story here is Zion. Zion JJS breaks out, worth the pick. Him, Penetrator, Skarn, that's a big 3. Granted, they're young and not like superstars who put up the stats. Slamtown was a great addition. G-Man knows what he's doing on building a low-tier playoff team. He is one free agency away, one big move away from being a legitimate contender here. They're definitely a playoff team. Great moves all around. Very excited for the future of this team. We'll see if we have any comments from the Peanut Gallery. Yeah, this is going to be a fairly solid season. Many good teams. Houston now. Drazen Petrovic, Chris Matthews, and Willie Huddleston with Darko. They added Jeremy Shaw. They added Trey Walker. This is the year they come back. GM of the year for M Process. He could be the first player to win back to win 2 GM of the years, and his free agency guys didn't even blow up. It's just a solid drafted young team. I mean, Drazen could potentially be a 30-point scorer. This is just exciting. nothing negative to say about Houston. Great offseason. Um, we go on to Kansas City. They had an okay offseason. They didn't land any major free agents besides Ford, who did prog good and could be a really big part of their team this year. Abbott coming in was pretty solid as well. They could be surprisingly good, but having lost Steve Rice, they lost a big part of their franchise. And trading Jet too, I don't see this team going anywhere this season, unfortunately. They're struggling in the turmoil. But it is what it is. Next up, we have Kentucky with the new logo. You love it. It's a great logo. Um, Karl Anthony Towns, he's going to be a force. Nobby progging good as he enters free agency. Jaden having a good prog. Nolan Young having a good prog. This team is a favorite. I mean, they're going to win the East, in my opinion. At least of the teams we've seen so far, they will win the East. I want to see how New Jersey does, and maybe Washington, Toronto. As of now, they are my favorite. Um, Leo Deckard probably going to be a starter with Pogues, maybe moving Mars to sixth man. You never know. I mean, they have so many lineup combinations here. It's going to be interesting to see. Billy Bogues went from MVP candidate to probably the worst starter, and he was on a very similar Montreal team. So it's going to be interesting to see. Lancaster now, um, really solid progs from a lot of their core players, but ultimately, this is just a middle of the road. You know, it's an okay team, but not a great team. Neil Thomas having a great prog is good. I mean, they were talking about making him untouchable before. Well, now he's definitely untouchable. I mean, he could be the future of this franchise. He better be starting day one in my book. Bill Brown also might low key have one of the most valuable contracts in the league. We'll see if he gets moved potentially. Wow, Vegas with a great offseason. They didn't make any major free agent splashes, but just kept the boat together. With a healthy Noel, Archibald, Jalen, and Owens, they're a solid playoff team. They have a fairly deep bench now, thanks to decent progression, putting a lot of their guys over 50. Kevin Battle with a great progression, incredibly valuable. He must have been a late second round pick, right? Yeah, he was actually the highest pick in the second round. That's insane. Um, or was he the latest pick? Shoot, might be wrong here. Yeah, I think I'm wrong. He was the end of the draft. Yeah, second to last pick. Second to last pick, and already second season going to be a huge part of this team. Um, D. Cooper with a great prog. This team is going to be solid. Uh, Probably a contender in the West. They ride and they die on Jacob Owens. All right, Mexico City. They continue to be a middle of the road team. I don't predict a great season from them, nor a horrible one. They're going to be in the battle for the eighth seed once again. Guzman, Hunter, King, Brewer all coming back. Even Gizzy's back, and Roninger. This team will basically be the same thing they were last season, just without as much of the hype being in a league that now has a lot more expansion teams people will be cheering for. But they have a big fan base. Um, People were calling for the nerf of Karl Anthony Towns. That's just funny. Um, wow. Uh, this was a mixed bag. So Axel Blaze get progging down and Kumar progging down. Both will probably end up breaking even with the prog points. Hall breaking out is insane for this team that already had so much depth. And Kosher really bouncing back here. He's also being more active on the server. It's a little disappointing to see McPherson kind of stagnate. I mean, he had such a good rookie season. Now he's just in a free fall. He's going to want a max too, which I don't know if he's going to get, being honest. Great scorer, but they might have to make some tough decisions to keep the group around. It's also a little sad seeing Max Adams' value get killed, but this team is going to be a deep contender as well. They might be one of the better teams in the East, but they are a better regular season team, in my opinion. Basically, the Denver Nuggets of current, but in the NBA. Um, so we'll have to see how that goes. Now we go over to Milwaukee. They got basically what they needed in this offseason. A legitimate third and fourth star, picking up Steve Rice. Rice continues to go down, which is unfortunate. But this is a solid team. Hayden's got to be happy about this team. Um, see what we got for comments here. Oh yeah, it's mostly just people
upset about the fact that St. Louis couldn't beat the Hawks because Hayden had already stolen St. Louis. Um, it is what it is. But what we'll see here is just a decent season from them. I don't know if they're a true contender yet. They might have a better big three now or big four in starting lineup. Davoris Mablin's going to be an interesting piece of this team. He hasn't really had that great a career. I mean, you look at last season. Let me sort by year here. Last season with the Hawks, he averaged 10 points per game coming over from New York, where he was a legitimate contender for um, Sixth Man of the Year. But he's never been a legitimate star. I mean, he was in Milwaukee just a couple years prior. Um, he is winner of the last 3-point contest, which was autoed and RNG'd, but we'll have to see how he is. Um, yeah, did they get him for nothing? Got him for nothing in a cap dump. Wow. Um, that's very strange. Highly unfortunate. To have picked up a guy his caliber in a cap dump for New Jersey, taking a big hit here. Now we'll look at Minnesota, an expansion team. Yes, a quality team. Yes. Alice Moore will be the face of this franchise for a couple seasons, but they have Walt DeBerry coming up, and DeBerry is going to be teamed now with Action Palmer, who is a great outside playing big man, assuming he progressed right. Yeah, he's almost a 60 and 3-point. He's an outside shooting, defensive and offensive, two-way superstar. Um, Massenet's a great point guard. Rouse could also put up some solid scoring numbers. He did just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he was a 17-game scorer. So this team could be surprisingly good. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but they're definitely going to be fun to watch. Now we'll head on over to Montreal here. I'm going to have some comments. Yeah, if Palmer ever becomes a god, like he could be very, 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 very good. Um, so now we'll take a look at Montreal. They had insanely good progs. LaMelo Ball going to be a legitimate superstar, no doubt about it. You hate to see it, but just the great progs. I mean, I'm going to highlight some of these here because I don't know if I've ever seen this great progs. I mean, look at that. Look at how many good progs this team had. They have so much they can do with these guys now. Joe Provitt, Guy Eaton, and uh, Ryan Peel and LaMelo Ball. This is a bright future. This team, they just need. They're at a tall as Malad Smith away from a deep playoff run here once again, getting themselves in great position. Um, David and Damian are great duo of GMs. Now we go over to New Jersey. New Jersey is going to be dangerous. Jake King having a great progs and being a legitimate superstar is infuriating. Wilton Bill had mixed bag off season. Trey Oakham became a legitimate force. Team is so tall, so talented. Um, yeah, Jake King had great progs, and what's scary is at 87 DIQ, he had 3.5 steals last season. How many do you think he's going to get this season? I'm saying over under 5. That's my prediction. Over under 5. Um, there is some question as to why they might have drafted Wilton Bill. I think the reason is largely the way the cap works in this. They moved Muse to point guard, so you got to treat him as a 6'9" power forward, and it's very tough to distinguish that because he is truly more of a power forward. But moving him to point guard freed up the team to start another big man, so they'll likely already be starting Bill at the power forward spot, with Hubert at center. This instantly means that Wilt would be their sixth man. Um, Guys like Yusuf, you don't know what you're going to get out of him and Kaman, and so realistically, the team made some good moves. I don't think there's any question there. They're just going to have 3 really tall guys on the court at a time. Yeah, they do have a major spacing issue. King adding the 3-point badge is good, but look at a guy like Muse, and Muse is a 40 from 3-point, basically a liability from 3-point. and he's going to be expected to play the point here pretty relatively like right now. He'll be playing the point. So now we look at New Orleans. New Orleans was the big winner in free agency, in my opinion. They added DeBerry. It's a little disappointing to see him prog down. Him and Goran, they actually brought Trook back. So they have two members of the Milwaukee team from last season that were pretty sizable role players here. Although Anthony could put up some pretty crazy stats along with Bonner. Bonner, a big loss for Anaheim. Um, basically they have a creative player in Miguel de Luna. That's a solid team. I don't know. I think they have potential. I don't think they're going to make a splash this year. DeBerry is going to continue to put up stats in a vacuum. I mean, you look at, it's just what he is. Stats and vacuums. He might be one of the best players. Well, in my opinion, I don't think he's ever going to make a deep playoff run until he's at least now looking at 28 plus before he could join a legitimate playoff team unless New Orleans builds around him. And I don't think with that contract they will. So I think they'll move him before they build around him. It's unfortunate, but unless Aldo Anthony becomes a star. Now we look at New York, and they're just unfortunate progs here, getting killed with really reckless abandonment. Coyote Diamond is going to put up his stats. You know, have him for another year at least. They'll probably retain him. He's been a huge part of their franchise. A great two-way player, just a core part of this team. So it's nice to see him get to put up the stats. It's unfortunate to see that this team is still not really a contender here. Um, Devon Temple was a good pick when they drafted him, and I have a lot of confidence in him continuing his development. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays this year. Hopefully, getting a little bit bigger role. He may even start at point guard for them. So we'll see. Moving on to Pittsburgh, they will be adding some players. Hitler will put up his stats. Um, Bryant McCamey might get a buyout. I could definitely see him getting bought out. Um, Hong Rollerson could have a pretty solid season. Um, you hate to see Skippy's gonna quit. He's gonna quit. I don't know how else to say it. I don't see any other way this goes down. Not good progs. Not good progs at all. At least Lonzo's gonna put up his stats. But the wingman got killed. Yeah. Even completely, I think. I just don't know how this team is going to recover from that. Play Lonzo for 47 minutes a game. Yeah, that is how they will recover from this. It's just highly unfortunate. Um, Providence. Um, they're don't. I'll fix this right now. I see I made a typo. Um, all right. So now we go out. Hawthorne, the great prog. He's the better brother. Day one. Ricky's got a pretty solid team. But bad prog's not helping this team make the playoffs year one. He had some guys in free agency. Or some low key vets. He could have a potential playoff team if they overperform. But this might be a second coming of Ricky's tenure in Anderson. All right. Um, Give me 1 second, guys. Got to take a quick. All right, sorry about that. The girlfriend was here, but San Diego's rebuilding. Trent is going to have a crazy season. He might put up 25, 12. Onwu Diegwu declining is not great. This is the last year of his deal. He's probably going to drop out of the league after this.
It's been a run that you can say. Up and down alleys of his career. Um, he goes down as the worst player in NBA history from a salary standpoint. Um, Now we continue on to the next team. Next team is going to be San Francisco. All right. So Phil Riley is a legitimate superstar, and that is insanely good news for this team. Slick and Martin already bouncing back a little bit. I don't see a way in which this team doesn't make the playoffs, if I'm being honest. No, I'm looking at this roster, and I'm not disappointed. I think they've done a good job building a well-rounded team. Um, yeah, they lost Maven in the offseason, but I don't think they needed Maven. I think that with Phil Riley emerging as a legitimate star, Brendan Mincy being added, Frank Smith being added, this is probably a playoff team. They're pretty good. It's a little disappointing to see Mickey Collins broke down. He was a pretty high pick, but even then, he should still be able to put up a quality role player number. So we'll see. Now we look at Seattle. They got a good prog. That's what they needed at Hopkins. He could potentially be a MVP candidate, but behind him, bad progs from Gardner, Solar, Windale, McKinnon, Coleman all getting killed. It wipes out their depth. And they might fight to be a playoff team. We could be looking at a complete rebuild here, and it's unfortunate. This might be the last season of the Matt Pitts era. Um, yeah, he just hasn't been the same player that they need him to be. It's going to be disappointing, if I'm being honest. So now we'll move on to the next team, St. Louis. The St. Louis GM has been here the entire time, so he's been waiting, and I don't think he gets the results he was hoping for. But good progs by Moody and Henderson do help this team. I don't think we've seen yet if it was a. I don't think we've seen uh, how good the players this team has removed is going to be, but they could be okay. They don't have as much horsepower as I was hoping they would, but we'll see what their GM thinks. Not curse-worthy progs. Yeah, they're not the worst, but wasn't great. Now we go to Tampa. We all want to know how this worked out, and it did. Oh, it did indeed. They spent a ton of money on a long-term deal for Bogan. They got him. Did it work out? You tell me. But in my opinion, it did. And adding Chenault, with him progging God tier, this is going to be a fun team. They have a quality, solid lineup. Yeah, this is going to be a fun team. They definitely could contend for a playoff spot. Now we look at Toronto. Toronto added Maven to be that third star. He did not become that. But what they did get was a solid starting lineup. I mean, this is a rock solid starting lineup with some good progs from some of their deep bench guys. This team will be probably back in the conference finals this year. Now we look at the defending champion. They lost McPherson. He's a 66 now. But you know what? They said, F them. They don't need Marcus. He's not their leader. No, their leader is LeBron James. 20-year-old, 69 overall, former first overall pick, by far the most valuable player in the ABA. We're getting some hate from Trustus here too. Nobody wants this team to win. Nobody. JJ just started his 3P in DBL. He has been dominant in GBA. And here, he's getting great progs, and I don't think anyone wants it. Nobody wants it. Yeah. So let's go to the next team here, but they're going to be in the finals. Probably. Let's be real. We all hate to see it. All right, Vancouver. Don't got much on their team. What they do got, it's golden. Look at Sam Eustace. He might be one of the best players in the league day one. Like, his new contract. Absolutely great. John Banks plays way above his PER or way above his overall, playing with a high PER. I want to see how this team does. They also have a cap. A lot of teams have caps. All right. And now look at Washington. They got hit hard in the offseason. They might have had the worst offseason I've seen. And it's unfortunate, but this team, they could still be a playoff team. I'm hoping they are, but we'll see. So now we'll take a look at some free agents. Free agency is mostly going to be around guys like Golan, Venable, Diamond Johnson could get a big contract. And I can see guys like Boley and Mandel Boykin getting pretty solid deals. Alan Johnson also, I think he's probably heading back to New Jersey or Milwaukee, if I had to guess. He's been a defensive specialist of incredibly high caliber, but also a complete bust. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at power rankings. Then I'm going to export the league, and then we're going to do a quick test sim in case people are interested. Then we're going to post this. So, power rankings. There's so many teams. Utah, Kentucky, the favorites right now. Anaheim, New Jersey, the consistent conference finals team. Miami, Las Vegas, they're going to be fun. Cincinnati, Dallas have underperformed in the past. Veteran heavy. We'll see how they do. Very deep team. Milwaukee, Toronto, exciting, front-loaded team. Houston, Denver, young, gun. Detroit, Hawaii, dark horse contenders. San Francisco, Mexico, consecutive disappointing seasons, maybe hold some promise. Washington, Montreal, what they were 2 years ago. They were great 2 years ago. Atlanta, Cleveland, Lancaster, Tampa, mixed bag. Let's see what we get. Seattle, Chicago, you never know. Baltimore, Vancouver, honestly, send some of the guys from Baltimore to Vancouver. Fort Worth, going to be fun. Austin, Providence, maybe not so much. Flint's a mixed bag along with St. Louis and Minnesota. Kansas City, Edmonton, and down. Don't know how these teams are going to fare. It's going to be interesting. So we're going to do real quick is we're going to export the league, and then I'm going to real quick upload it, Dropbox, so we can get this thing going. All right. So while we get that going, what we're going to do here, and we're just going to do a super quick custom. So my prediction for in real terms, East has a lot of possibilities. In the West, it's going to be Dallas, Utah, in my opinion. Interesting how the season's gone so far in this test sim, but or that should be the West, I should say. In the East, it's going to be all over the place. There's so many good, solid teams in the East now. East is so much deeper than the West, I think, which is an interesting changeover. So test sim doesn't have Dallas making the playoffs. And Chicago wins in Fleecer's first season. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Take a real quick look at the history of that season. What happened? So Dumont would be the most underperforming Finals MVP. Great years across the board. Very interesting season. Dr. J with a big season. And leave it at that.